Hey guys, DC Multiverse Dude here. Really excited to bring you an early look and review of these two DC Multiverse Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom Aquaman figures from McFarlane Toys. Big thanks to McFarlane Toys and Head Start Toys for sending me these samples for review. You'll see today we've got Aquaman in his traditional orange and green costume, and we've also got Aquaman with his stealth suit. So I thought I'd take a look at these two together and compare them. Thought that'd be an interesting way to go about it. I've already reviewed the Black Manta 12-inch statue and 7-inch figure. Please check that out on my channel if you haven't already. And I've also got King Kordax to review shortly. So if you haven't subscribed, if you haven't turned on those notifications, please do, because you don't want to miss that review as well. So here we have Aquaman and Aquaman in the stealth suit with the Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom logo. They look good in the packaging. I think the traditional looking Aquaman looks really vibrant and really detailed. He looks excellent to me. You'll see that the packaging is fairly plain. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. On the back, you'll see some comic inspired artwork. Pretty nice. Now here is Aquaman in his stealth suit. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. And some more comic inspired artwork on the back. So, without any further ado, let's get these guys open and see how cool they actually are. Okay, so before we look at each figure individually, I thought I'd get them both out of the box and just see what they come with in their packaging. So, the regular suit Aquaman comes with a display stand, which you can see here. You've seen it a million times. I'm not going to remove it because, frankly, I have a lot of trouble standing this figure up without a display stand. So, you'll just have to trust me when I say the display stand's the same as it is with every other figure. So we also come with the trading card with that nice sort of comic inspired art on it. And there is the bio if you want to pause and have a read about Arthur Curry. He also comes with a trident. Now, if you've seen my Black Manta review, please check it out. You know that I'm got some very strong feelings about whether figures should be, packed with their necessary weapons. It's good to see that we've got the trident here. It's a fairly nice sort of a piece. Bendy, but not intensely bendy like some of these are. More rigid than you'd expect. Nicely detailed, pretty sharp. Yeah, nice little accessory there. And you'll see that the regular suit Aquaman also comes with a pair of gesture hands, which have that really nice sculpt work on them. Yeah, nice. A nice inclusion for this figure. You don't always get the extra hands with McFarlane, so that's appreciated. Now, with the stealth suit Aquaman, we get a trading card and a display stand. The bio is the same, the art is different, and the trident is exactly the same. So there you go. So now, let's look at these figures individually and see what we think. Okay, starting with the regular suit Aquaman, which I think is probably the figure that most people will be more interested in and drawn to because it captures that classic Aquaman look with the green, with the orange, the gold belt. I think this is a really good figure. Straight out of the box, it's impressive to look at. He's tall. I think the proportions are really, really good. He's got that sort of heroic chest, broad shoulders, thick legs. Like it's the Jason Momoa Aquaman. And I think he looks really, really good, sort of from a glance. You know, you look at him and you're like, well, that's an impressive figure. It looks detailed. It looks colourful. I like it. Getting in for a closer look, you'll see that the head sculpt, it's pretty good. Like, it's not perfect. And, it's not exactly sort of like a motion capture scan digital likeness, but for an artist's rendition of Jason Momoa, it's pretty good. The hair is quite nice. It's kind of got that blonde paint sort of washed over it, gives it some life. You'll see that that's also carried on into the beard, which has a bit of that blonde wash as well. So the head is pretty good, and quite nicely you'll see that the hair is quite soft, which means that you can actually rotate his head fully around. Often these figures with long hair, their articulation is inhibited, but not this figure. So that's pretty good. In terms of the sculpt, I think this looks great. It has that scaling effect that Aquaman's known for, highly detailed, beautifully done, I think. It carries over into these sort of pauldrons, which are soft plastic, but similarly detailed. And you even see that the butterfly joint under there has the scale sculpt as well. So, you know, beautifully done in terms of the sculpt. The sort of fin-like wrist guards look really, really nice. Beautiful sculpted detail. The green is, I think it's green plastic that's just been molded, but it's kind of got like a glittery pearlescent look to it, which I think looks really, really nice. The fists have been beautifully sculpted. Look at that minute sculpt work. You can see the scales in the gloves. Looks really, really nice. The belt is sort of a dull gold, but again, slightly pearlescent. Really, really nice. Even the diaper, you know, beautifully sculpted, not too intrusive. You'll see that the legs have kind of some nice musculature underneath that sort of scale texture. Very, very nice. It goes all the way down to the boots, which again are that pearlescent green with these fins. These are a bit soft. Yeah, it looks great. The only thing I will say is that you can see that beneath those boots, there is the very hideous ball joint ankle, which I thought we'd gotten away from, but I think Todd thinks that he can include those ball joint ankles if they're covered up by, you know, the rest of the sculpt. And you can just about get away with it, I think. But, you know, they don't look great. You can see that the toes also have some nice line work. One thing I did notice is that the ball joint wrist on this hand is much more visible than it is on this hand. This one is hidden by the sort of wrist guard. This one isn't. And I don't know what the difference is. Functionally, they do the same thing. It just looks better on this hand than on that hand. But yeah, it's a beautiful sculpt. Not a lot of paint, but I don't think it needs it. You know, the paint is where it needs to be, which is on Jason Momoa's face. So overall, really, really nice looking figure. In terms of how he moves, as I said, the head will move right around, cannot look up at all because of the hair, can look down quite nicely. So that's nice. Because this is soft plastic at the pauldron, you can get the arms straight up and double jointed elbows, which is really nice. And wrist articulation, swivel and a hinge. You know, it does what you want it to do. In terms of the diaphragm, he can spin 360 degrees. Crunch about that much forward, about that much back, it's okay. Swivel at the waist, all the way around as well. So that's pretty good, pretty nice. Now, like I noted before, the diaper on this figure is actually one of the less intrusive McFarlane's done, which means you can get 90 degrees, maybe a bit more, out of the legs, which is really, really nice. They actually have a little bit of swivel as well. Not much, but a little bit. I think the only flaw in the articulation of this guy is you look at the knees, which are double jointed. So in theory, he should be able to kick his own butt. But you run into this issue where the fins here collide with the back of the thigh, and it just doesn't work. Okay, so this is bendy, it'll give a little bit, but that's just going to ruin it if you push it any further. So that's a weird design flaw. Like, yeah, I don't know how you get around it, honestly. If this is accurate to the movie design, yeah, how do you get around that? So you can bring his leg up 90 degrees, but if you bend that any more forward, you collide with this. So that's a bit weird. You've got a hinge, the rocker. It's the standard foot articulation, ankle articulation. These feet are on ratchets. See, they sort of click in segments, which makes it really hard to stand this figure up, which is a bit of a bummer. And toe articulation, like every other McFarlane figure. It's, you know, neither here nor there. So, you know, overall articulation is actually really good in some parts, like, you know, the head, the arms, the crunch, the legs, but then you get to the knees and it's not good. So that's a shame. That's a shame. But like, yeah, I think overall, this is a really, really good looking, good moving figure. Yeah, I'd be interested now to compare him with the Stealth Suit variant. All right, And here we have Aquaman in his stealth suit. Again, this is like a really nice looking figure. I don't know that this is the look that most people will gravitate towards. It's very movie specific, but for what it is, it's actually really nice, I think. And, you know, I commend McFarlane for making the suit and the sculpt and everything completely different to the other variant. So it doesn't feel like a cheap reuse. It actually feels like a completely new figure, which is pretty nice. Starting with the head sculpt, you'll see that it's extremely similar to the other one. I'm going to bring it in for a look. So you'll see they're not exactly the same. They are very, very similar. Any differences might actually just come down to the paint application, and obviously the hair sculpt is different. The regular suit has sort of half his hair forward over his shoulder and the other half on the back of his shoulder. This one has the hair hanging by the front. You know, I think they're both good. And, you know, if you get both, you can head swap to your heart's content. The skin tones match. Either one will look fine. Yeah, which one do you like better? Let me know in the comments. I'm kind of partial to this look, personally. It's a bit more dynamic. This guy kind of looks like Chad Kroger. Yeah, it's giving me the Nickelback effect. I don't know. It's pretty good, though, like a good head sculpt. In terms of the rest of the figure, like, it has that same sort of level of sculpt work. This effect is not the same as the scaling effect on the other Aquaman, but it's highly detailed. Feels great in the hand. You'll see this guy doesn't have pauldrons and has completely unique arm pieces. It's all just sort of molded plastic, very little paint on the actual figure, but what's there looks great, you know? The sculpt is great all the way around on the back. The belt, cast in a slightly different color plastic, but looks excellent. This one's got more of sort of a musculature. This one's got a more defined abs and pectorals, which is an interesting look. He kind of looks a bit leaner overall. Like if I bring them in together, this one is sort of a more buff looking figure. This is more sort of slender, panther-like, which is sort of interesting. You'll see again, the diaper piece is not too intrusive and blends in really nicely with the rest. And it's cut up by that belt, so it's one of the rare cases where the diaper is not a big problem. Looks great. You'll see the hands here, there's no gloves, there's just skin tone, and you've got some very nice sculpted joints. Sculpted ball joints, yeah. Coming down to the boots, again, you'll see that molded plastic in a slightly different sort of a purpley tone, looks really, really nice. And sculpted ankles. So those joints are beautifully sculpted all the way down. Really good stuff. Like, look how much nicer that is than those ball joints. I mean, they're covered up by the boots, but, you know, it just shows that McFarlane can do beautiful, beautiful sculpted ankle joints when he wants to. Yeah, they look great. Really, really good. In terms of articulation, head can go round. Double jointed elbows, diaphragm and torso can both, actually no, diaphragm cannot rotate 360 degrees. You barely get anything at the diaphragm because that's so tight, it won't move. But at the waist, he'll swivel around. Ab crunch, not much back, that much forward, so that's okay. Head also goes down like that, but not back because of the hair. So that's interesting. Legs above 90 degrees. And because this one doesn't have the fins, the double jointed knees allow him to almost kick his own butt, but not quite, but much better than the other figure. So this one is much more dynamic overall. You get a lot more posability out of the stealth suit variant. Oh, this one's really stiff. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, I mean, ankles, McFarlane, standard, rocker, hinge. Yeah, he looks good. He moves good. I like this figure quite a bit. Anyway, it might be time to do some comparisons. Okay, so let's do some comparisons. First, I should note that I got Aquaman's trident in his hand only with the help of some boiling water to sort of loosen up that fist and then slide the trident in. It's impossible to sort of just slide in from the top on its own because of that little pointed bit at the end. So you actually do have to bend the fingers apart, and that's really only possible if you heat up the fingers first, but you'll see that the trident looks awesome. It's not too flimsy, it's actually quite large. It's so large, in fact, that I couldn't have them both holding their trident or they'd take up too much camera space. So there you go. So for the first comparison, here we have the Aquaman 2 Black Manta figure. This figure is borrowing the trident from another figure, King Kordax. Please watch my Black Manta review if you want to know what that's all about. The actual figure does not come with that trident, so just be aware. But in terms of the size comparison, they look great together. They're about the right height. Proportionately, they look really, really good. I do think that the classic Aquaman looks better against this Black Manta. I think the contrasting colours look really, really nice. Yeah, a great pair if you want to have them posed on the shelf together. As long as you give Black Manta a weapon, they'll look fantastic together. Next, I thought I'd compare these two against the Endless Winter Aquaman, which is probably the most comic accurate Aquaman we've got so far. There's also the Page Puncher's Aquaman, who looks great. You know, he's sort of bearded and he's got the huge sort of armor piece on one of his shoulders. I don't have that figure, so I can't do the comparison, but you know, I think he'd look really good alongside these two too in an Aquaman collection. In terms of the differences between these three, you'll see that the Jason Momoa Aquaman has a slightly different orange to the Endless Winter Aquaman. The scale sculpture is different. I think the Jason Momoa Aquaman has sort of more of a sheen to him. The green is a richer green. Obviously, he's got that sort of scale sculpture texture work on the legs, whereas Endless Winter Aquaman has very, very plain legs. Endless Winter Aquaman has sort of a bright gold painted belt, whereas Jason Momoa Aquaman is sort of a dull bronze. In terms of the trident, I think Jason Momoa's trident looks way better. It's less flimsy, less bendy, just looks better, more detailed overall. The head sculpt's obviously completely different style, live action movie versus comic. You know, in terms of their musculature and proportions, I think Endless Winter Aquaman has more of that heroic proportion of a comic book with a skinnier waist and the broader shoulders, which, you know, that's personal preference, what you prefer. I do like the fins on the comic book Aquaman much more than these sort of overly designed fins here that inhibit the articulation. But yeah, I mean, they look good together. It's really just a matter of preference in terms of what you prefer your Aquaman to look like, but there you go. Here we have the New 52 Ocean Master. I think this Ocean Master design, the New 52 design, matches quite closely with how Orm looked in the first Aquaman movie. They obviously drew a lot of inspiration with that character design from the New 52. So these guys actually look pretty good together. If you wanted to set up sort of an Aquaman 1 display, you could get away with this. Like, they in good proportion to each other. Yeah, I think they look really, really good. The colours contrast really, really nicely. Yeah, that works. Next comparison is with the Page Puncher's Black Manta. Absolutely incredible figure, great design, really love this one. These look okay together. I think that the Page Puncher figure is so detailed from head to toe that he kind of fits in with the live action movie aesthetic quite well. He doesn't look out of place. They look quite good. Perhaps Black Manta's a little bit skinny, you know, a bit exaggerated in his sort of slenderness. But I think, again, if you had these two, or, you know, if you had this Black Manta posed fighting either of these Aquaman figures, that'd look really, really awesome. Next, we have the Page Puncher's Aqualad. Again, a very nicely detailed figure that fits in quite nicely. If this is something you wanted to do, have at it. You'll see that Momoa Aquaman is much, much bigger, much, much broader, bulkier, as he should be. I think they look great. And my final comparison is with the Batman movie six-pack, Justice League, Ben Affleck Batman. You know, for many of you, you want to be creating your own sort of Snyderverse Justice League. I think these two look pretty good together. The head sculpt on the Affleck figure looks great. They sort of are in the right scale, the right proportion to each other, I think, generally. They look really, really good. So if that's something you're interested in, you can do it. And if you're looking to upgrade your, you know, Snyder Cut Aquaman, I think either of these two figures would look great. Finally, I know a lot of people have been getting that Flashpoint Flash Build-A-Figure with the alternate Barry Allen head, and they've been using this as an Arthur Curry head, replacing it on their Endless Winter Aquaman to make a more traditional looking Aquaman figure. Some of you might be tempted to try that with this Momoa Aquaman. I was tempted to show you what it would look like, but very quickly became apparent to me that these heads are in a different scale. So you'll see Barry's head, much smaller than this Momoa head. And I can already tell you, without having to take it off, it'll look ridiculous. Yeah, the skin tone won't match, and this Barry Allen head is just way too small. So there you have it. Aquaman in his classic costume and his stealth suit. Both really, really nice figures, highly detailed. McFarlane always goes the extra mile with the detail on these movie figures. These are no exception. I think for Jason Momoa Aquaman fans, these are the best figures that McFarlane's made to date. Probably the best figures that any manufacturer has made to date, beyond the sort of the Mafexes and the Mezcos or whoever else has done one. I'm not sure, but you know, that's a different price bracket. In this standard mass retail price, I don't think you're going to get better than this. In terms of which figure I like better, I'm always going to be partial to the classic green and orange colouring. But in terms of articulation and playability and fun, I think the stealth suit actually might take it. I don't think you can go wrong either way. It just depends what look you like better. Both quality figures, not perfect, but you know, if you're a fan of the source material or you just want a really awesome looking Aquaman for your shelf, you can't go wrong. So these get a big recommend, big thumbs up from me. Anyway, next I'll be reviewing the King Kordax figure, so look out for that. Subscribe, turn your notifications on. Let me know in the comments if you're going to be picking up either of these, and if so, which one. And until next time, happy collecting and thanks for watching.